Welcome to your quiet reading time. We'll be reading some fascinating stories. Now, let's read together.
Shennong, an ode to dirt and fire. Chapter 1. The Dawn of Hunger. Before the first city was built, and before the first word was written, the world was a silent, green prison. It was a time of giant trees and deep shadows. The earth was a beautiful place, but it was also a cruel mother. She offered her beauty, but she hid her secrets behind thick leaves and sharp thorns. For the early people, every sunrise was not a gift, but a challenge. Every sunset was not a rest, but a victory over death. The wind carried the smell of rain and the sounds of predators. Humans lived like ghosts in the tall grass. They had no iron to fight the tigers, and no walls to stop the cold. Their only weapons were stones and their own courage. However, courage cannot fill an empty stomach. In this vast, wild land, survival was a thin thread that could break at any moment. A silent terror followed the tribe everywhere. It did not have teeth, yet it bit deeper than a wolf. It did not have hands, yet it strangled the breath out of the young and the old. We call it hunger. In the winter of the soul, hunger was a blind beast. It lived in the caves and walked through the forests, eating the hope of the people before it ate their bodies. Nature was like a giant, locked treasure chest. The food was inside, but the humans did not have the key. Among these people stood a man named Shennong. He was not a king of wealth, but a king of responsibility. His skin was burned by the sun, and his hands were rough like the bark of a tree. He looked at his people, and his heart felt like a field of dry grass on fire. He realized that the old way of living, hunting and gathering, was a path to the grave. The tribe was like a boat lost in a storm, and the storm was getting stronger. If we do not change, he thought, the forest will swallow our stories, and the wind will blow away our names. Chapter 2. The Golden Keys to the Earth. One night, under a moon that looked like a cold, silver eye, Shennong made a vow. He decided to leave the safety of the cave. He wanted to find a way to make the cruel mother become a kind provider. The change began with a quiet observation. One morning, as the mist lifted from the river, Shennong saw a bird flying across the sky. In its beak, the bird carried a small branch filled with amber seeds. As the bird flew, a few seeds fell onto the soft mud. Shennong watched them. He did not eat them. He waited with the patience of a mountain. Weeks passed, and the sun warmed the mud. Suddenly, a tiny green finger pushed through the earth, reaching for the light. Shennong realized a secret hidden for millions of years. The earth was not just a floor to walk on, it was a womb. He understood that the sleeping stars, the seeds, could be woken up by water and soil. To wake up more stars, he needed a key. The human hand was too soft to open the heavy doors of the ground. So, he carved a strong branch into a curve, creating the lei sai, the first plow. This wood was the pen of civilization. When Shennong pushed it into the dark earth, he was writing the first line of a new story. He traveled across the valleys, gathering the 5 grains. He taught his people to clear weeds and speak to the earth with their sweat. Months later, a miracle happened. The fields turned into a sunlit tide. When the wind blew, the plants moved like the ocean. The people gathered the grains, and the smell of toasted seeds meant the children would survive the winter. Shennong stood in the amber fields, his heart full of peace. The war against hunger was won, but a new war was about to begin. Chapter 3. The Green Wheel of Fate. Even though the fields were full of grain, a new invisible threat crept into the tribe. It was an enemy that no plow could break and no wall could stop. People began to fall ill. A child would develop a burning fever. A strong hunter would suddenly lose his strength and curl up in pain. The food filled their stomachs, but silent attackers were invading their blood. Shennong watched his people suffering, and his heart grew heavy. He realized that living was about surviving the whispers of the wild, the diseases hidden in the damp earth. He looked at the vast forest. To him, it was now a library of life and death. Every leaf was a page, and every root was a secret sentence. To read this library, Shennong had to use his own body. He decided to taste every plant he found. This was the green wheel of fate. With every bite, he was spinning the wheel. Every day was a gamble with death. Some roots made his skin burn like fire, while others made his heart beat as slow as a dying drum. Legend says he tasted hundreds of herbs, sometimes facing 70 poisons in a single day. His body became a living map of pain and wisdom. He recorded the bitter taste of healing and the cold touch of death. He became a lonely traveler walking on the edge of a cliff, searching for the bridge between sickness and health. But this bridge exacted a heavy toll. His body became weaker, and his spirit was constantly tested by the toxic spirits of the forest. He was trading his own life, day by day, for the survival of his people. Chapter 4: The Miracle of the Divine Leaf. One afternoon, Shennong sat by a small fire, entirely exhausted. His body was failing from a powerful toxic herb he had eaten earlier. His stomach felt like it was filled with sharp stones, and his breath was heavy. The green wheel of fate had almost stopped turning for him. He was boiling a pot of water to quench his deep thirst, waiting for the pain to pass or for the dark end to come. As the water began to bubble, a soft wind shook the branches of a tall tree above him. A single, vibrant green leaf danced through the air and landed perfectly in his pot. The clear water slowly turned a beautiful, pale yellow. A fresh, clean aroma rose with the steam. Shennong took a sip. Suddenly, he felt a clear river flowing through his veins, washing away the heat of the poison. His mind became bright, and his body felt light again. He had discovered tea, the divine leaf that could wash the spirit and heal the broken body. The discovery of tea and new medicines changed everything. Shennong taught the tribe which plants could stop a wound from bleeding and which roots could cool a fever. The wheel was now turning in favor of humanity. However, the price of this knowledge was written permanently on Shennong's face. His hair grew white, and his skin was covered in scars. As he sat drinking the bitter yet sweet tea, he looked toward the horizon. He realized that agricultural and medical knowledge was not enough. To truly survive, his people needed the strength of order and a unified force to protect the fields. The time for isolated tribes was ending. Chapter 5: The Embrace of Two Great Rivers. As the years passed, Shennong's tribe grew strong and healthy. To the east, another great leader emerged, known as the Yellow Emperor, or Huangdi. If Shennong was the red fire of creativity and sacrifice, Huangdi was the golden soil of order and law. The two tribes were like two powerful rivers flowing across the same vast plain. Eventually, their paths were destined to cross. At first, there was tension. In the ancient world, different ideas often led to conflict. They met on the battlefield of Banquan. It was a collision of two worlds, the farmer and the warrior, the healer and the organizer. However, this was not a war of destruction, but a struggle to find a common direction. After the dust settled, the two leaders looked at each other with deep respect. Shennong saw that his people needed structure. Huangdi saw that his people needed the deep knowledge of the earth. They realized that a house with only one wall cannot stand. Together, they decided to join their hands. This was the birth of a great alliance. The fire of Shennong warmed the culture, while the earth of Huangdi provided the foundation. From that moment on, the people stopped calling themselves by different names. They became the children of Yang and Huang. This name represents a deep bloodline. It means every Chinese person carries two spirits: Shennong's courage to help the suffering, and Huangdi's wisdom to build. The two rivers merged into one great flood of civilization. This union was the unbreakable knot that tied the past to the future, proving that humanity could master the wild through cooperation. Chapter 6: The Ears of Wheat That Never Bow. The wheel of time turned, and the myth of Shennong became the history of a nation. For thousands of years, the blind beast of hunger continued to haunt the world. Dynasties rose and fell like the tides. The children of Yang and Huang never forgot the man who first tasted the leaves, but they were still waiting for a final victory over the empty bowl. Deep in the soul of the people, there was a timeless seed passed down from Shennong, waiting for the right person to wake it up. In the 20th century, a new figure appeared in the muddy fields. He wore a simple straw hat and walked with his back bent toward the earth. His name was Yuan Longping. He looked at the rice plants and saw a green code that could save millions. Through thousands of experiments, he discovered the secret of the hybrid rice. He created a great shield made of grain to protect his people from the blind beast forever. There is a beautiful truth in the fields: when the grain is full and heavy, it bows its head toward the earth. This is the gesture of gratitude. The rice ears bow so that the people do not have to bow to hunger. This humility is the spirit of Shennong. Today, the fire he lit in a dark cave shines in vast modern farms. The blind beast has been replaced by the warm light of a full harvest. Shennong's body is part of the soil, but his voice is the wind blowing through the wheat. As long as there is a seed in the ground, the ears of wheat will never truly bow to despair. They will only bow to the earth, in a quiet, eternal thank you.
Alright, that's all for today's story. Thank you for watching. See you next time.